My family excluded me from my sister's lavish engagement party, treating me like I didn't belong. Now they're desperate for my help, but the ending I chose turned their celebration into a lesson they never expected and will never forget. I'm a 30-year-old male working as a senior operations manager at a logistics company in Phoenix. I earn around $95,000 a year, which is solid for my area and experience level. I've always been the quiet, responsible one in my family. I never caused drama, never asked for much, just worked hard and minded my own business. My sister, Jessica, a 27-year-old female, is my complete opposite. While I was studying business administration and building my career, she was bouncing between community college majors and part-time jobs at boutiques. She's the type who thinks networking means flirting with guys who have nice cars, and her idea of a 5-year plan is finding a sugar daddy. Growing up, my parents treated her like she was made of gold, while I was basically the family afterthought. The difference in treatment was staggering when I look back on it. Jessica got a brand new Honda Civic for her 16th birthday, financed by my parents, while I got a used Toyota Corolla with 150,000 miles when I turned 18. When she wanted designer clothes for school, they'd take her shopping at the mall. When I needed new clothes, they'd hand me a gift card to Target and tell me to make it last. When she wanted to quit her job at Nordstrom to focus on her art, ugly wire-wrapped stones she calls handcrafted jewelry, my parents sent her $1800 a month when I graduated summa cum laude with my business degree. They skipped the ceremony because Jessica had a crisis with her boyfriend ghosting her. I sat in that auditorium watching other families celebrate while my phone stayed silent. My graduation photos are just me and Kevin, who drove 3 hours to be there because he knew my family wouldn't show. The person who really gets this whole situation is my buddy Kevin. He's my roommate from college, now works in sales, and has zero filter. He's the kind of guy who will tell you exactly what he thinks about your family, your girlfriend, and your life choices, whether you want to hear it or not. He's been watching this dynamic play out for years and calling it like he sees it. Dude, your sister's a professional victim, and your parents are enablers. Kevin told me about 6 months ago when Jessica moved back in with them for the 3rd time. She's 27 and has never paid rent in her life. That's not bad luck. That's a lifestyle choice. Kevin was right, but I'd gotten used to just staying quiet and not rocking the boat. Growing up, I learned early that making waves only made things worse. When Jessica threw tantrums about not getting the toys she wanted, I learned to give up mine to keep the peace. When she forgot to do her chores, I'd do them so my parents wouldn't be upset. When she needed help with homework, I'd basically do it for her. The pattern continued into adulthood. Jessica would have some crisis, my parents would drop everything to help her, and I'd be expected to understand because family comes first. Meanwhile, my accomplishments were met with polite nods and immediate subject changes to whatever drama was happening in Jessica's life. Kevin witnessed this firsthand during family barbecues and holiday gatherings. He started keeping a mental tally of how many times my parents mentioned Jessica versus how many times they mentioned me in conversations. The guy literally started taking notes on his phone during family events. Last Sunday, he told me after a particularly brutal family dinner, your mom mentioned Jessica 23 times and you exactly twice, and one of those times was asking you to fix their printer. The other time was telling you to pass the salt. Kevin also documented what he called the Jessica show. During family gatherings, he'd text me observations like, "Your mom just showed the waiter 3 photos of Jessica's jewelry. You've been asked to help move the cooler." Kevin had this outsider's perspective that let him see patterns I'd been blind to. He'd grown up in a family where achievements were celebrated equally. Watching my family dynamics was like research for him. The worst part was that I'd internalized it. I genuinely believed that maybe I just wasn't as interesting or accomplished as Jessica. Maybe her drama was more engaging than my steady career progression and responsible lifestyle. Maybe I really was just the boring, reliable son who existed to solve technical problems and provide emotional support when Jessica's latest scheme fell apart. That was about to change in a big way. Last fall, Jessica started dating this guy named Brandon. He's 34, works in commercial real estate and drives a BMW X5 that he won't shut up about. The guy makes good money, probably around $220,000, and you can tell he's the type who thinks his bank account makes up for having the personality of wet cardboard. Jessica found him on some dating app and from day one, it was obvious she saw dollar signs. Within a month, she'd reinvented herself as a luxury lifestyle influencer. Her Instagram went from amateur jewelry photos to expensive dinners, designer bags, and first-class plane tickets. She started using phrases like "my partner and I" when talking about weekend plans that cost thousands. She'd post stories from boutiques with captions like "when Bae says get whatever you want." The girl who shopped clearance racks was suddenly carrying Gucci purses and posting $200 dinners on Tuesday nights. Kevin screenshotted the ridiculous posts. One showed Brandon's BMW keys with the caption, "taking the baby out for a spin." Another showed her at an expensive spa with self-care Sunday. So grateful. The spa day cost more than she used to make in a week. Kevin and I were hanging out when I showed him Jessica's Instagram story of her casually holding Brandon's MX Black card at some fancy steakhouse. "Bro," Kevin said, nearly choking on his soda. "Your sister just posted a picture of someone else's credit card like it's an achievement. That's not girlfriend behavior. That's escort behavior." The worst part was watching my parents eat it up. Suddenly, Jessica was the golden child again. But now with a rich boyfriend to show off. Every family dinner became the Brandon show. Brandon took Jessica to Napa. Brandon's thinking about buying a lake house. Brandon this? Brandon that. My mom started following Jessica's Instagram religiously and would show photos to anyone who'd listen. "Look at this restaurant Brandon took Jessica to," she'd say, showing pictures to the grocery store cashier. "Isn't she living the dream?" Meanwhile, when I mentioned getting a promotion to senior operations manager at my company, which came with a $12,000 raise in management of a 15-person team, my dad literally said, "That's nice," and immediately pivoted to asking Jessica about Brandon's real estate deals. The promotion had been a huge deal for me. I'd been working toward it for 3 years, had to present to the executive team and beat out several other candidates. It represented real career growth and validation of my hard work, but in my family's eyes, it couldn't compete with Jessica's ability to land a rich boyfriend. Kevin started documenting the absurdity. He'd text me screenshots of Jessica's posts with commentary like, "Your sister just posted a photo of a $300 bottle of wine with the caption, 'Just Tuesday things.' Meanwhile, you're over here managing supply chains for half the Southwest and getting 3-word responses from your parents." It was like, I didn't exist unless they needed someone to help set up their Wi-Fi or explain their health insurance options. Right before Christmas, Jessica and Brandon got engaged. And when I say engaged, I mean, this guy dropped serious cash on a ring that probably cost more than most people's cars. The ring was honestly ridiculous, like something you'd see in a music video. Jessica posted about 47 Instagram stories of this ring from different angles, hashtagging everything from blessed to real estate money. The announcement happened at Christmas dinner, of course. I had just finished telling everyone about my promotion and how my team had successfully streamlined our distribution network, saving the company around $400,000 annually. It was a complex project I'd been leading for 8 months, coordinating with multiple departments and vendors. My parents were giving me their usual polite nods when Jessica suddenly squealed like she'd won the lottery. "Oh my gosh, I can't hold it in anymore." She flashed this massive rock that could probably be seen from space. Brandon proposed. The entire table exploded. My mom started crying happy tears. My dad started shaking Brandon's hand like he'd just discovered the cure for cancer. My cousins were all crowding around to look at the ring. My accomplishment was forgotten in about 3 seconds flat. Jessica launched into this detailed story about how Brandon had proposed during a weekend trip to Sedona, complete with a private helicopter tour and a photographer hiding in the bushes. The proposal itself probably cost more than I make in 2 months. Kevin, who'd come as my +1, leaned over and whispered, "I'm guessing that costs more than your car, probably more than my car and my emergency fund combined," I whispered back, "and I'm guessing it's going to be the most expensive engagement ring in history once she trades up in 2 years. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing, but Kevin's joke hit uncomfortably close to home. Jessica had a track record of upgrading boyfriends like phone contracts. Here's where it gets good. Over the next few weeks, I figured they'd start talking about engagement party plans and maybe ask me to help or at least include me somehow. I'm decent with event planning. I coordinate logistics for a living, and I've got connections for venues and catering through work. Instead, I heard absolutely nothing. No calls, no texts, no "hey, we're thinking about having a party," just complete radio silence. Then Kevin sent me a screenshot he found on Instagram. Jessica had posted a story from some fancy event space downtown with a caption, "Engagement party planning in progress. Can't wait to celebrate with our real family and friends." Real family and friends. The shade was real, and it was pointed directly at me. 2 weeks later, Kevin comes over with his laptop and this knowing grin on his face. "Dude, you need to see this," he said, pulling up Facebook. "Your sister's engagement party was last night." There it was, professional photographer, fancy venue with string lights and flower walls, about 60 people all dressed up and celebrating. My parents were in half the photos, looking proud as heck. My cousins were there, my aunts and uncles, even family friends I hadn't seen in years. But wait, it gets better. Jessica had hired a professional photographer and created a whole Facebook album called Our Perfect Night. There were photos of her giving a speech about finding her soulmate, Brandon looking awkward but rich, and my parents giving toasts about how proud they were of their daughter and her amazing fiancé. The production value was insane. We're talking professional lighting, A signature cocktail named after the couple, custom napkins with their names and engagement date. This wasn't some casual backyard party. This was a full-scale event that probably cost $15,000 minimum. Kevin was scrolling through the comments. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a comment from my Aunt Linda. "Such a beautiful celebration. So glad the whole family could be there." The whole family, except me. I stared at those photos for about an hour. There was this one group shot of literally everyone who mattered in my family, all gathered around Jessica and Brandon with champagne glasses raised, and there was this obvious empty space where I should have been standing. The photos showed a level of planning and coordination that had been going on for weeks. Custom decorations, a DJ, what looked like a full catering spread. This wasn't something they threw together last minute. This was a carefully planned event that they deliberately excluded me from. "This is messed up," Kevin said, like genuinely messed up. "They didn't even tell you it was happening." What really got to me was seeing how happy everyone looked. My parents were beaming in every photo, clearly over the moon about Jessica's engagement and excited to show off to Brandon's family. My cousins looked like they were having a blast. Even my normally grumpy Uncle Mike was smiling and seemed to be enjoying himself. I wasn't just excluded, I was erased. They'd managed to have this perfect family celebration without me, and nobody seemed to notice or care that I wasn't there. That's when I decided to call my mom. I waited until the next evening because I needed time to figure out what to say without completely losing it. "Oh, hi, sweetie," my mom answered, all cheerful like nothing had happened. "I saw the photos from Jessica's party," I said, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. There was this long, uncomfortable pause where I could practically hear her brain scrambling for what to say. "Oh, right, the engagement party. You didn't invite me, Mom." "Well," she said, and I could hear her getting defensive. "We just thought, you know how you get around Jessica's big moments? You tend to get all quiet and moody, and we didn't want any negativity affecting her special day." I felt like I'd been slapped. Moody? When have I ever been moody at family events? "You know what I mean, Daniel. You've always been a little jealous of Jessica's success, and this was her moment to shine. Brandon's family was there, and we wanted everything to be perfect. We needed to make a good impression. Success? Jessica's success at landing a rich boyfriend was more important than including her own brother." "What exactly did you think I was going to do?" I asked. "Start a fight? Make a scene? I've never done anything like that in my entire life." "It's not what you do, it's your energy," she said. "You get this look on your face when Jessica's happy, like you're judging her or something. We just wanted one night where she could be completely happy without worrying about your reaction." My energy, my reaction, like I was some kind of toxic presence who couldn't be trusted to behave appropriately at a family celebration. "I've supported Jessica through every boyfriend, every job change, every crisis she's ever had," I said, my voice getting harder despite my efforts to stay calm. "When have I ever made her moments about me? This isn't about the past, Daniel. This was about Jessica's future, and we needed to focus on that." "Then I guess you won't mind missing my wedding too," I said. The silence that followed was the longest pause I'd ever heard from her. When she finally spoke, her voice had this nervous laugh in it. "Daniel, don't be ridiculous. You're not even dating anyone." "Actually, I am. And we're getting married. But don't worry. You won't have to worry about my energy affecting the celebration." I hung up before she could respond. Kevin had heard the whole conversation and was staring at me with wide eyes. "Dude," he said, "please tell me you're actually going to do this." That's when I told him about Sarah. Here's what my family didn't know. I'd been dating someone seriously for about 18 months. Her name's Sarah. She's a marketing director at a mid-sized consulting firm, makes around $75,000, and she's basically the opposite of everything my family would expect me to date. She's confident, successful, funny, and most importantly, she actually cares about my career and accomplishments. I'd kept her away from my family because, honestly, I didn't want to subject her to their dysfunction. She'd met them exactly once at a barbecue the previous summer, and Jessica had spent the entire time talking about whatever expensive thing Brandon had bought her while completely ignoring Sarah's existence. She didn't even ask what I do for work, Sarah remembered when I told her about my plan. She just assumed I was some random girl you were casually dating and wasn't worth her attention. Sarah had actually been pretty hurt by how my family treated her at that barbecue. She'd tried multiple times to join conversations, had brought a homemade dessert that everyone ignored, and had watched my parents fawn over Jessica's stories about Brandon while barely acknowledging her presence. "Your sister literally turned her back to me mid-conversation when your mom asked about her latest shopping trip," Sarah said. I've never been so blatantly dismissed in my life. When I explained what had happened with the engagement party and my decision to get married without telling them, Sarah was immediately on board. "You know what? Let's do it," she said. "Let's throw the classiest, most beautiful wedding ever and show them what they're missing." We started planning immediately, A small but elegant venue, close friends only, professional photographer, amazing food, the works. Sarah's family was incredible about helping with everything. Her dad knew contractors who could recommend vendors, her mom had connections in the catering world, and her sister was a graphic designer who offered to do our invitations. Kevin appointed himself as my unofficial wedding planner. "We're going to throw the most amazing celebration ever," he announced. "They're going to see these photos and realize exactly what they lost." The planning became an incredible bonding experience. Kevin helped us compare photographers and caterers, visited venues with us, and created an elaborate document with all our decisions and vendor contacts. Sarah's family embraced him immediately. Her dad called him the wedding coordinator. We chose a beautiful garden venue with stone archways and string lights. The total budget was $22,000, which I could afford without debt. We sent invitations to 45 people, Sarah's family, close friends, a few cousins I liked, and my Aunt Linda. Kevin designed the invitations with Sarah's sister, and they were honestly gorgeous. Thick cardstock, elegant typography, the whole thing looked expensive and sophisticated. "If we're doing this," Kevin said, "we're doing it right. They're going to see these and realize they missed out on something special." 3 weeks before the wedding, my cousin Danny texted me a photo. It was my wedding invitation sitting on his kitchen counter with the message, "Dude, your mom just saw this at Aunt Linda's house. She's completely freaking out." Then my phone started ringing. Mom, Dad, Jessica, even Brandon tried calling. I let every single call go to voicemail. The voicemails were something else. Mom was crying and begging me to call her back. Dad was demanding explanations. Jessica left this long rambling message about how family should stick together and how I was being super immature and embarrassing the family. Kevin listened to them all and was absolutely dying. "Your sister just called you immature for not inviting her to your wedding after she didn't invite you to her engagement party." The lack of self-awareness is actually impressive. Our wedding day was absolutely perfect. A beautiful outdoor venue with gardens and string lights, gorgeous weather, amazing food, and the best group of people celebrating with us. Sarah looked incredible. Our friends were all there supporting us, and for once in my life, I felt like the main character of my own story instead of a background player in Jessica's drama. Kevin's best man speech was legendary. He managed to be hilarious without being mean, talking about how he'd watched me find someone who appreciates my terrible taste in action movies and my weird obsession with spreadsheet organization. The whole crowd was cracking up. During the reception, Sarah's dad pulled me aside and said something I'll never forget. "You know, Daniel, in all the years I've known you, this is the first time I've seen you look truly happy. Not content, not okay, actually genuinely happy." He was right. I wasn't thinking about who wasn't there or what they thought about my choices. I was just enjoying the moment with people who actually cared about me. Our photographer was amazing, and the pictures came out beautifully. Sarah and I looked genuinely happy and in love. Our friends looked like they were having a blast, and the whole event had this warm, joyful energy that really came through in the photos. Then, around 9:00 p.m., our venue coordinator brought me an envelope that had been delivered to the front desk. Inside was a handwritten note from my mom, Daniel. "We saw the photos online. We made a terrible mistake. Please don't shut us out. We want to be part of your life." I showed the note to Kevin and Sarah. Kevin read it and shook his head. "Too little, too late. They only care now because they're on the outside looking in." Sarah read it too. "What do you want to do?" "Nothing," I said. "Tonight is about us." And it was. We danced until the venue shut down, took amazing photos, and went on an incredible honeymoon to New Zealand. When we got back 2 weeks later, the real drama started because, while we were gone, Jessica's perfect life started completely falling apart. Here's where the story gets really good, and honestly, I couldn't have planned it better if I'd tried. While Sarah and I were on our honeymoon, Kevin kept me updated on the family drama via text. Apparently, my parents were having daily meltdowns about being excluded from the wedding. My mom was calling everyone in the extended family, trying to get them to pressure me into talking to her. But the best part, Brandon started showing his true colors. About a week after our wedding, Kevin sent me a screenshot from Instagram. Jessica had posted this long, dramatic rant about fake people and finding out who really has your back and learning that money can't buy loyalty. Apparently, Brandon had been getting cold feet about the engagement ever since he saw how my family treated me. Even Brandon's asking questions about how they could exclude their own son, Kevin texted. "Guy might be boring, but he's not stupid." Turns out, Brandon had been paying attention during family gatherings and had started noticing the patterns, how conversations always centered around Jessica, how my accomplishments were dismissed, how I was expected to help with everything but never included in celebrations. It made him wonder what kind of family he was marrying into. Then things got really interesting. Remember how Jessica quit her job because Brandon said she didn't need to work? Well, It turns out Brandon expected that to be temporary while she figured out her next career move. When she started talking about wedding venues that cost $80,000 plus and expecting him to pay for everything while she continued not working, he apparently had a reality check about what he was signing up for. Kevin was getting information from mutual friends. Jessica had zero financial literacy and spent Brandon's money like her personal allowance. She'd never discussed budgets. She assumed his money was their money. The breaking point came when she started wedding planning without Brandon's input. She toured venues costing $40,000 just for space rental, then brought home brochures like decisions were made. When Brandon asked about the budget, she said money shouldn't be an issue for our special day. She'd also made presumptuous comments about future finances. Kevin heard she'd been planning to quit Target after marriage because Brandon makes enough for both of us. She'd researched expensive houses and sent Brandon listings way above his comfort level. The final straw came during dinner with Brandon's parents. Jessica spent the meal discussing $100,000 plus wedding plans, mentioning vendors she'd put deposits on, and talking about European honeymoon plans she'd researched without Brandon. Brandon's parents were horrified by both the expense and Jessica's assumptions after dinner. His dad pulled him aside for a serious conversation about whether Jessica was marrying him or his bank account. 2 months after my wedding, Brandon ended it. Jessica had been so confident she'd never considered he might walk away. Jessica's Instagram went from designer bags and expensive dinners to complete radio silence. She moved back in with my parents and started working at a Target because it was the only place that would hire her with her non-existent work history and 3-year gap in employment. Meanwhile, my career was taking off. I got promoted to Senior Operations Director with a raise to $115,000 and was now managing logistics for our entire Southwest region. Sarah's consulting firm landed a major contract with a Fortune 500 company, and she got promoted to Senior Marketing Director with a substantial raise. We bought a house in a great neighborhood, took weekend trips, and were genuinely thriving. Our social media was full of normal, happy couple stuff, hiking photos, dinner dates, pictures from our house renovations. The contrast with Jessica's situation was pretty stark. While her Instagram had gone dark, my family was seeing our success through mutual friends and extended family who followed us online. Then, about 4 months after my wedding, my phone rang. It was my dad. "Daniel, we need to talk about what your mother's sick. She needs surgery and we need help." It turns out my mom had been putting off some serious health issues because they'd been financially supporting Jessica for years and couldn't afford the medical costs. She needed surgery that would cost around $30,000 after insurance, plus recovery time. That would mean my dad missing work to care for her. "The medical bills are one thing," my dad explained during that phone call, his voice strained with stress, "but I'll have to take at least 6 weeks off to take care of her during recovery. We just don't have that kind of savings." The conversation was awkward and painful. My dad had to admit they'd been living paycheck to paycheck for years, largely because they'd been subsidizing Jessica's lifestyle. Even after she started dating Brandon, they'd continued helping with car payments, insurance, and random emergencies. "We thought once she got settled with Brandon, things would get easier," my dad continued, his voice strained. "But then everything fell apart, and now she's back home with basically nothing. She's working at Target, making $12 an hour, and honestly, she's struggling to cover gas money." They needed around $45,000 total, surgery costs, my dad's lost wages, and basic living expenses during recovery. The only person in the family with that financial stability was the son they'd ignored and excluded. "I know we haven't been the best parents to you," my dad said, choking up. "We took you for granted because you were always so responsible and independent. We never realized how much we were hurting you." The irony was overwhelming. Jessica, the golden child they'd sacrificed everything for, was now a financial liability. Meanwhile, the son they'd treated as an afterthought had become their only hope for salvation. They had nowhere else to turn, and we all knew it. "We wouldn't ask if we had any other choice," my dad said, and I could hear the desperation in his voice. "But you're the only one who's stable." The son they'd treated like a backup plan was now their only option. Jessica couldn't help. She was making $12 an hour at Target and living paycheck to paycheck. My extended family was sympathetic but didn't have that kind of money lying around. Brandon was obviously out of the picture. I was their last resort, and we all knew it. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. Kevin was over that night when I told him about the call. "Dude," he said, "this is it. This is your moment." "What do you mean?" "You hold all the cards now. They need you. You get to decide the terms of this relationship going forward." He was right. For the first time in my life, I had something my family desperately needed, and they had no choice but to ask me for it. I talked it over with Sarah that night. She was supportive of whatever I decided but made one thing clear: if you help them, it has to be on your terms. No more being the forgotten son who only matters when they need something. I called my dad back the next day. I'll help with mom's medical bills and the time off work, I said. But I have conditions. Anything. First, Jessica needs to get a real job with benefits and start paying you guys rent. No more free rides. Second, I want a genuine apology from all of you. Not because you need money, but because you understand what you did wrong. And third, going forward, I get treated like an equal member of this family, not like Jessica's less important brother. There was a long pause. Those seem reasonable. They are reasonable, Dad. They're the bare minimum of how you should have been treating me all along. What about Jessica? She's going through a hard time right now. Jessica is 27 years old. It's time she learned to go through hard times like an adult instead of expecting everyone else to fix her problems. 3 days later, my whole family showed up at my house. Jessica looked like she'd been crying for weeks. My mom was pale and tired from her health issues. My dad looked older than I'd ever seen him. "We're sorry," my mom said. And for the first time in my life, it sounded genuine. "We took you for granted. We made you feel invisible and unimportant, and that was wrong." She went on to explain how they'd gotten so caught up in managing Jessica's crises that they'd forgotten to nurture their relationship with their son, who didn't need constant intervention. "We thought you were fine," my dad added. "You seemed so independent and capable that we figured you didn't need the same level of support Jessica did. But that wasn't fair to you." Jessica was harder to read, but she managed to get out an apology that seemed genuine. "I've been selfish," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I got so used to being the center of attention that I never thought about how that affected you. I never even considered that you might want some of that attention too." She admitted that she'd taken advantage of everyone's willingness to help her and had never learned to stand on her own feet. Losing Brandon had been a wake-up call about how unsustainable her lifestyle had been. "I know I have a lot of growing up to do," she said. "And I know saying sorry doesn't fix everything, but I want to try to be a better sister. I helped with the medical bills, not because I had to, but because, despite everything, they're still my family. But things are different now, and everyone knows it. The change in family dynamics has been dramatic and, honestly, satisfying to watch." Jessica got a job as a receptionist at a medical office with health insurance and advancement opportunities. She moved into a studio apartment and is learning to budget for the first time. The girl who spent $200 on nail appointments now clips coupons and shops at discount stores. She's dating a guy who works as a shift supervisor at a manufacturing plant, someone who expects equal contribution to their relationship. No more expensive dinners on someone else's dime, no designer shopping sprees, no Instagram posts about living her best life. Her social media shows normal working person stuff. Hiking photos, home-cooked meals, thrift store finds she's genuinely proud of. My parents completely shifted how they interact with both of us. They ask about my work with genuine interest, want to hear about Sarah's career progress, and include us in family decisions previously made without my input. When we bought our house, my mom asked to see photos of every room and actually listened when I explained renovation plans. The most telling change is how they handled Jessica's problems. Now, when she had car trouble last month, instead of immediately offering to pay for repairs, they helped her research mechanics and figure out payment plans. When she stressed about lease renewal, they gave advice but didn't offer to cover the rent increase. Kevin still comes to family dinners regularly, documenting the transformation with the same attention he used to track the dysfunction. "Your parents mentioned your work projects 4 times tonight," he texted after our last gathering. Jessica got asked about her job once, basic small talk. The balance completely flipped. The most satisfying part isn't that Jessica is struggling, it's that she's finally learning to be a functional adult. She calls me for advice sometimes now, asking about budgeting or career decisions. She's actually become more likable as a person now that she's not constantly performing this entitled princess act. My mom's surgery went perfectly and she's fully recovered now. My dad returned to work after 6 weeks and they're financially stable again. They've started an emergency fund for the first time in their lives and have stopped automatically bailing Jessica out of every minor crisis. And me? I'm absolutely thriving. Sarah and I just celebrated our first wedding anniversary with a trip to Costa Rica. We're talking about starting a family of our own. My career continues to advance, and I finally have the respect for my family that I should have had all along.